Hello again, this is Tim coming to you from the Basic Workspace. This lesson I'm going to go over the Fourth Amendment. This one's got a little more meat to it, unlike the second and third. So I'm going to go over what it reads real quick and then kind of explain what it means and some historical background on it. So bear with me here, this one is quite lengthy. It states, the rights of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and persons or things to be seized. So, in layman's terms, that generally states is that law enforcement needs a warrant to search your houses and take evidence. They are only allowed to search and take things from places specified in the warrant. So, for example, the warrant says that they can only search the basement. They can't go wandering around the house and look for other things. In the same vein, oftentimes there's a warrant needed to arrest individuals in their homes. These warrants need to be approved and signed off on by a judge. Otherwise, any evidence that is collected could be potentially thrown out in court. This was kind of confirmed in the mid-20th century by the Supreme Court. Potentially, arrested persons could go free if the arrest was deemed unconstitutional. Not unlike with the Second and Third Amendments, the Founding Fathers weren't really concerned with what we use it today now. So the idea of organized police and their function is a really modern thing. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, police was really led to as the citizens' responsibility. They had some makeshift police forces, constables and whatnot, but oftentimes they lacked the equipment, the authority, and the organization of manpower to really do what modern-day police forces can do. This is obviously a very, again, heavily debated amendment. Police and intelligence agencies in the United States have engaged in controversial activities. For example, the United States government collecting information from phones and internet as part of the war on terror. The stop and frisk policies that some major cities have put in place. A lot of times we have certain police encounters with civilians where the civilian is shot and sometimes even killed. And of course aerial surveillance, drones, and piloted aircrafts collected evidence that way. So there's a lot of controversy, modern day controversy that goes along with this amendment. In colonial times, it was used more because the crown had what were called general warrants, and that basically allowed any sort of soldier or messenger to detain and search anybody they deemed to have committed offense without cause. They could just pull anyone over and arrest them and search them anywhere they wanted. Obviously, the Founding Fathers didn't appreciate that too much, neither did the citizens, so they added this amendment in to make sure that's not the case. So again, the original context of this was not what we use it for today. It was more for, colonial times and the crown violating rights. There are some exceptions to this. Okay, like I mentioned before, the government has engaged in several activities which have been deemed constitutional-ish by the Supreme Court, but in certain situations, you see cops or police officers, law enforcement search vehicles without warrants. They detain people on the street without warrants. There are certain emergencies where they are allowed to search and seize without warrants. So there are quite a few exceptions to this rule. Oftentimes the question is, what is the immediacy of the threat or the danger? However, again, if a search is deemed unconstitutional, that evidence could be thrown out in court. If an arrest is deemed unconstitutional, violating the Fourth Amendment, that arrest could be thrown out. There's also the idea of what actually constitutes a search. So, for example, if a police officer sees someone plant a bomb, obviously we don't got a problem with that. But what if we put up a camera on a telephone pole, or what if there's a drone flying across that may catch that person in that same action? Does that constitute a search? There are other areas like airports where you go through airport security. You go through a metal detector. They search your stuff. You haven't done anything wrong. There's no reason to believe you've done anything wrong. Oftentimes, this is used as more of a deterrent to keep people from doing stuff wrong, or to catch people doing stuff wrong. So, in the case of airport security, they're searching you, but there's no cause of search. You haven't done anything yet. So there are some, again, exceptions to this rule. But generally speaking, in terms of law enforcement, they are required to have a warrant to search and take anything from your property. Again, the warrant is going to specifically state where they can look at, what they can take. And generally speaking, police officers are supposed to have warrants when they arrest individuals. Not having these warrants could result in evidence or cases being thrown out. So, I hope this lesson was helpful for you. You probably have seen this used quite often in movies and TV shows. You've watched things like Law and Order, Blue Bloods, shows like that. You get a good idea of how this is used. Some of the accuracy in some of these shows or movies might not be great, but you get an idea of the general idea of what's going on. So I hope this was helpful for you, and I will see you in the next lesson.